fundamental part of playing country guitar. And I wanted to just do a lesson kind of breaking down some super basic rudimentary mechanics of bending. So this isn't going to be a flashy lick lesson, or we're not going to be talking about bending in a bunch of different locations on the neck. I've covered some stuff like that, and I have plans to do more of that. But before we dive into more of that, I wanted to make sure everyone's on the same page and make sure everyone has a good foundation in the actual physical mechanics of bending, so that you're doing it correctly and you're not getting unwanted noise. And yeah, because we don't want that. So the first thing is obvious. You have to be able to bend in tune. And that's going to be specific to a guitar. It's going to be specific to where you're bending on the neck. The amount of tension or muscle you have to put into bending, closer to your nut. It's going to be a lot harder to bend a full step up down here than it is going to be up here. So stuff like that is going to make a difference just out of the gate. Obviously string gauge, if you drop tune to half step, all that affects your muscle memory when it comes to bending. So that goes without saying, and I'm not going to talk anymore about bending in tune. That's something that everyone can work on, obviously myself included. But what I do want to talk about today, and like I said, I know this isn't a super glamorous topic, but is muting while bending. So to just kind of demonstrate what it sounds like when you don't do that, I'm just going to play a little bit here, and I'm going to try to be intentional, if possible, about not muting the right notes. So hopefully you guys can kind of hear what that sounds like, and then you know what to avoid. So if you can hear there, as I'm releasing that bend, the strings I'm pushing up into start to ring as I release the bend. And there's some easy ways to avoid this, but it's often overlooked when people are first learning how to do this technique. So my favorite, and the one I'm going to show you today, involves using the blade of my thumb. So if I'm there, I'm bending up that B string a whole step. I'm on the 12th fret. You'll see what I'm doing here, and I'll try to kind of angle it so you can tell. I'm laying the blade of my thumb over these strings so that they can't ring out. And what that allows me to do is to bend up those whole steps without grabbing those unwanted strings and inadvertently causing them to make noise. So I know this isn't a super earth-shattering concept, but I see this a lot in beginner players that are first learning how to bend, especially if you have a higher gain amp, if you're using a distortion pedal, or if you have a lot of compression on, or even if your amp's just turned up a lot, you are going to hear those noises. So I have a simple little exercise, a bending exercise that we can do, and as you go through it, I just want people to focus on two things. Obviously the first one being getting those bends in tune. That's the most important thing. But then the second part is getting them to where the bend is clean and you're not hearing any other string noise. Doing there is just walking up the first 5 notes of a major scale, and I'm doing it in the key of E. I'm doing it out of the key of E, then I'm going up doing it in the key of A, and then in the key of B, which would be the 1, 4, and 5 for an E major. And this exercise is a great way to warm up. It's a great way to work on your ear, and it's a great way to work on muting. That full step bend plus the step and a half bend, then you release back to a full step. Takes a while to get the hang of, even as I'm shooting this. Right, I'm getting some unwanted string noise, and I'm missing stuff's going flat. So yeah, it's definitely a work in progress for me as well. But once I started dedicating just a few minutes every time I'd pick up the guitar to working on doing this stuff kind of intentionally, making sure I'm not getting the buzzing, making sure I'm not hitting stuff I don't want to be hitting, and making sure that I'm getting the notes in tune, I really started to see a lot of improvement when it came to just how I was improvising and playing solos live and stuff like that. One other thing to add, and hopefully this isn't news to anyone, but if you're brand new to this, you might not have heard of this yet, but you're not expected to be able to do all your bends with just one finger. So in a lot of what I'm demonstrating here, I'm using my other kind of non-involved fingers to help push that string up, right? So if I'm trying to do a full step bend here, I'm putting my pointer finger, my middle finger, and my ring finger down. My ring finger is the one that's fretting, but I'm not trying to muscle that bend up with just one finger. Right, I'm placing these two behind it and using kind of the strength of all three of those fingers to push up. Like I said, this isn't super glamorous stuff, but getting the fundamentals of this is obviously very important. I have some bend videos on my channel, so you feel free to check those out once you get the hang of this stuff. But definitely do not sleep on practicing your bends, because it's obvious when guys haven't put the time in on this stuff, and yeah, we're better than that. So practice your bends. Yeah, I think that's all I got for this video. Hopefully that's helpful. Yeah, maybe this is all stuff you guys have heard before, maybe it's not, so let me know below. Like I said, I have some bend video ideas that I'm working on, but before I got those out, I wanted to make sure everyone was on the same page as far as how to actually do the technique itself. So yeah, thanks again, thanks for watching. Yeah, cheers. We will see you all in the next country guitar tips, tricks, licks video.